Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation to attend and basically impart some knowledge. Typically with these kind of like interactions, I always kind of like open it up if there's a preference in the crowd, if this becomes more like a fireside chat. I certainly have a presentation good to go, but then I think what we can do is that while I'm going through it, it's going to be pretty fast anyway. I'd like to invite everyone to kind of like be able to interrupt me as a speaker, just kind of like come on stage or like raise your hand, and perhaps Anthony, if you can kind of like help navigate and ensure that they can interrupt me at any time, it would be really perfect because I love having conversations about this space. NFTs is a fantastic kind of like opportunity to bridge basically DeFi and essentially bring in community. Just as a quick background, I actually come from traditional asset management, and I launched the first Bitcoin fund for Toronto. And we started that as an offering memorandum style with a multi-crypto fund, just to kind of see what the appetite might be and prove that there's an actual use case and reduce the friction from traditional asset management to get into this space. And now I'm doing the same thing. So back in 2017, I used to do Bitcoin 101 or Crypto 101, and now I'm doing NFT 101, almost like a sort of like a public service announcement. But in any case, I'm going to share my screen and just kind of like walk you through how I'm seeing this space. And, I wanted a more like open approach to what this ecosystem is, and show people that there's an opportunity to participate, whether or not you're a developer or in asset management or whichever part you could be, in order to kind of like see what this space is all about. And so that's why I'm approaching this more as a NFTs net new economy. And I kind of said here that it's led by the creative and the gritty, which is essentially the case. So let me start off. I know that everyone might already know what NFTs are, but I have my own definition of it. And for me, non-fungible tokens are social currencies that provide measure to your social clout, essentially, captured and governed on blockchain. So obviously, we already know that inherent attributes are unique, indisputable, programmable, transparent, and immutable. So for me, I've basically started this new venture called
Sorry, Kay, you briefly cut out. I'm not sure if you could hear us.
Yes, I can hear you guys. Can
Oh,
you hear me?
okay. You're back.
Sorry.
No
Okay.
worries.
Oh my gosh. So
No
I'll
problem.
just proceed. Hopefully. Oh, it says that my internet is unstable. Great.
No worries. Well, I'll send you a message in the chat here if
Okay,
you get cut out, but it should be good.
let me turn off my video first and see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay, maybe it'll help with and I'll just come back in later on.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds great.
Amazing. And so I kind of said, like, this is my definition of NFTs are, and how I'm kind of like approaching this space essentially as a SaaS provider. So for us, NFTs essentially, early of this year, it's really crazy. I'm carving out a net new economy in this space because, like, beginning of the year, Q1 2021, when we're looking at the NFT economies, is only at $2 billion of the $80 billion virtual goods market. And at that time, the initial forecast was like, in 2 to 3 years, it's going to grow to $20 billion. Well, guess what? It's Q4 2021. It's already 15 billion. So I think we're surpassing this rate, like, clearly, right? I don't think this 2 to 3 years is going to last. It's probably by, Q1, Q2 of next year, we'll probably be at 15 billion, I'm going to say. Or maybe I could be really wrong in that case, but we'll see if there's a softening, right? But what this tells me is that there's an opportunity here to carve out a new market, essentially, creating an ecosystem that provides a supply and utility for NFTs. This is exactly how everyone's approaching this, right? And so this is kind of like where everyone really started with NFTs. It's real artists, creators of nothing, essentially. And from there, we're initially it was a starving artist, and then we're moving towards people being more really creative and figuring out, if we can create a utility aspect to the NFTs, then we're in the real ball game, and this is where you'll get the proper adoption. So it started with NBA Top Shot, initially as an engagement model, then you have like a year-round engagement model to NBA, as opposed to like how NFL was like, or the football guys were like, you know, attacking the space. And now they're revamping their vision and now jumping the same bandwagon of creating NFTs to manage community, right? VFriends, Gary Vaynerchuk, huge in figuring out how to manage this community. They've created access tokens, meaning to say that if you have this particular NFT, you can come join their events, and they're all like ridiculously sold out. I heard over the news recently that Adele is doing a residency in Vegas, and her tickets might go for like $30,000 per day. Like, honestly, in this case, I think NFTs would be the greatest version of a ticket. And so watch out, Ticketmaster, because at the end of the day, it's more like the scalping, right? That makes all these artists like lose money, right? And so this is a real opportunity. For my venture, our long game is more like to use NFTs as your OAuth solution to get into your social media, for example, or to get into an airport lounge. You show up with your Punk or Bored Ape and you're like, you know what, forget flashing your Amex card. That doesn't work anymore, because I think the future is what is your digital clout, right? And your ownership of that. But here's the thing, it's a really funny disappearing ink problem, right? Like it used to be that people always had their signature purse and they keep the receipt to go with it. And then what happens sometimes to those ink? It disappears. And now the question is, you know it's real because you bought it from Hermes or Louis Vuitton, but I think the future is as well digital twin and serial numbers being placed in actual NFTs. And then obviously revenue channel with Disaster Girl and the memes and how that's coming into play. Collections is obviously what paved the path and created the access point for this. So it's essentially dominated by a handful of leaders. Budweiser, for example, is the key thing: new asset class, new store of ownership, proof of ownership, and access to further perks. For the Budweiser drop, actually, my venture was the technologist behind this. Sorry, Anthony, you have a question? You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Sorry, I was just talking to someone. No questions so far, though.
Oh, okay, got it.
We're following through. Thank you though for checking, honestly.
No worries. Okay, so here's the thing from JP Morgan. They basically said, by creating marketplaces for liquid assets, the NFT universe is surely set to continue to grow strongly over the coming years, because it helps to solve problems of injecting, this is the key thing, liquidity into naturally illiquid assets such as collectibles. And so I wouldn't be surprised if later on we'll see fragmented NFTs of the Mona Lisa, for example, and what that would be like. Community is a key thing with respect to this new ecosystem, and how you can hack this space, right? So the future state will be digital, like I said earlier, digital identity ownership and then access to IRL. In the beginning, we were all aping in essentially, and now this new community is like, this is new to me as of like maybe 3 weeks ago, like the desperate ape wives. Like, this is how creative people are, with extending the community and how you could see that. For me, what this means is that the way I can infer things from here is that, is it the same guys that created the Bored Ape Yacht Club, or is it like a new community channel, right? And so this is an inflection point basically that shows how collaborative this economy is and the move towards decentralization. And then there's this piece as well of the devs, like, layer one, like creating Web 1 to Web 3. What does that really mean, right? And increasing adoption of NFTs, not just a means of exchange, but it will require wallet integration, wallet custody, perhaps. Is there going to be yield attached to custody NFTs? How does that integrate, and what that marketplace might look like? And then creating bridges for Web 2 to Web 3. I mentioned earlier, where Venture, we have a micro app, for example, wherein you can download specific QR codes if you own a specific NFT and use that QR code to get in through the door. So talk about Web 2 to Web 3 physical, right? It's fantastic. And then, but the key part here as well is the third part is the education of mainstream, which is still a large component to this space if we want like a huge adoption to this, because there are still people that don't really understand what NFTs are. And there's a drive towards, you know, it's not just a glorified JPEG, right? Or not as a right click save as. Here's the other thing that I kind of wanted to stress as well, new angle for marketing and brand and content strategists. So Diego Borgo, actually, I think he's in LA, and he was the brains behind Adidas and Board Ape Yacht Club combination with their last, you know, push. I love that I just grabbed this. This is his comment, basically said that before he was a marketing guy and he's just trying to push all kinds of like different schemes on how to attract different campaigns for marketing, right? And then now he's seeing through the NFTs, it's different. It's more like a shared subject matter expertise and you know, a collective, we're all gonna make it. That's what WAGME is, just in case if anybody asks. GMs is good mornings and WAGME is we are all gonna make it and NAGME is not gonna make it or something like that. But this is kind of interesting with the lingo and how everything is coming into place. Main thing here I'm getting, brand reinvention, content writers shifting their subject matter expertise, symbiosis is a concerted effort, right? And the propensity for inclusiveness, which is all about community. So I think if you have an NFT project and your initial mindset is like, I just want to make money, you're not going to make money because that's not what it is. You have to be inclusive and you have to do it as more like managing community and engagement. And I stress that very, very much because this is, you know, a common misconception and what people think what NFTs are. And you know, if you're not playing Web3 decentralized, you're going to fail in your project. Here's another thing, redefining careers, right? So this is Spencer Gordon, actually. We love him. He's the VP digital for Anheuser-Busch. Before NFTs, I think he wasn't really making a mark. Like he was certainly good at what he was doing, but then suddenly he becomes like the go-to de facto blockchain expert for a massive conglomerate. And I think it's really clever how he's rebranded his entire like persona and what, you know, what this means for his career, like later on, right? He's certainly leading the charge. I think in some ways, this is kind of the same way as how people understood how to mobilize TikTok and influencer campaigns on that. And now we'll see a shift towards like, or we are already seeing it essentially with being the NFT expert and doing campaigns based on that. And then obviously there's, you know, the boring stuff, but also equally important. Operations side for NFTs, there's the certificate of authenticity, how it's going to affect blockchain. I have this certificate of authenticity here. Actually, the future is, I think, is more like you get a degree from Yale. Normally, to check for authenticity, you call administrator registrations and just be like, did this so-and-so person actually graduate from Yale? I think the future is more like Yale would produce NFTs of their certificate, and you don't need to call any department. You just check on Etherscan or OpenSea to just be like, is this legit, right? And I think this is where things are going. I mentioned earlier, solution to ticket scalping. Engagement tool, we already know that at the end of the day, it's not just an email anymore. We find that the 100 million crypto users are very strong in actually coming back to you to just be like, what's next? You know, what are you doing next? So it's like a reverse hacking of engagement tool, right? Yeah, and I have this place here for e-commerce because this is where things are moving. A lot of artists and athletes, apart from leveraging their brand, they're also using now NFTs to be able to sell merchandise and access to exclusive merch. So this e-commerce is the key part, whether or not you're doing it on the fulfillment of the actual NFT or fulfillment of the actual physical goods that gets gated. Here's another key thing, legal and copyright trademarks. So about a month ago, I learned that you need to refile for your slogan. So what your IP, copyright, registration is previous to the existence of metaverse does not apply to the metaverse without a refile. And so Nike back in November basically had to refile and do class 9, 35, and 41 to ensure that they're also covered in the metaverse side. And now they also started recruiting for virtual material designers, tasked with actually creating products solely for virtual consumption. That's a key thing, right? And this will redefine the entire ecospace of what copyright is. And so, as you know, recently as well, there was that big controversy about like someone creating meta Birkins for NFTs. I think they made about $900,000. And Hermes is basically trying to say that they can't do that, but it's different, right? Like I said, I don't know what this, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know what this, what the results would be with this saga. But I think at the end of the day, I have a feeling that they might not have any, Hermes might not be able to do anything, because if that was the case, then Nike would not have gone through this refile, right? But who knows? I don't know. Oh, this is blank. E-commerce direct applications, because I do want to show you guys 4 use cases of how we approach this space. So OpenSea right now, obviously you can mint, deploy, there's also Wearable. For my venture, what we've done is that we've created an application plugin to Shopify so that people can, or brands can mint and deploy their NFTs and do it on their own brand, under their own umbrella. So the first company that we work with is Super Plastic. They make these like vinyl toy collectibles in 3D model, essentially. Their CEO was visionary and ended up doing an NFT drop last July. And in 2 weeks, they sold out and made over $1 million in sales. That's pretty quickly, right? But with respect to the advancement on what they're using the NFTs are as a true engagement model, they've now created a Jankiverse, which basically lays out what their future plans are for NFT holders. And I think it's, you know, in the space of understanding how you can use NFT, I think they are leading the charge over and above what the VFriends guys are doing or what the hundreds are doing. Yeah, and so for us, what we've advised them was more like, you know what, you guys do your drop of NFTs, we'll help you with the minting deployment. You can sell it through your own Shopify Plus store, and people are able to purchase it with either Coinbase Commerce or Visa MasterCard through the underwriting system of Shopify, right? And so this reduces, you know, like I said, our vision was to reduce the friction for people to participate in this space. And normally in OpenSea, when you want to buy your first NFT and you have no idea and you're a crypto noob, you're like, please connect your MetaMask wallet. And most people are like, what on earth is a MetaMask wallet? And if I know, how do I plug it in, right? And so for us, we thought on the e-commerce side, on making your first sale, you would lose your sale from that, because people, even myself, and I'm not a noob but I'm still kind of like scared to connect my wallet, right? And so it would be so much easier to just like pay with credit card, pay for the gas fees using your credit card, and we'll deliver you the NFT straight to your wallet. And then there's that educational component piece or FAQ that Super Plastic or another brand will have to do in order to teach the NFT users on the process, right? Here's the second case study I mentioned. Anheuser-Busch did the Budweiser NFT drop. This was just literally November 29th. And strategy was to basically allow Anheuser-Busch to sell NFTs and market it, even if it's restricted content and has a legal age requirement in order to sell. So using their platform as well, this is something that you can't do in OpenSea, right? Like to gate first 21 plus and then be able to gate by region specific as well. So that's a key thing. The other thing as well that I didn't get to mention here is that, in fact, when we were doing this entire project for them, the number one question that came about from their accountants was more like, well, is there a workaround? Because our accountants say we can't hold crypto. So we can't hold ETH in order to, you know, pay or sell the, do the gas, pay for the gas essentially to deliver. So that's a key component here. But the second piece is that they're now using the same NFTs to do re-engage and working with POAP, for example, which is proof of attendance protocol, and other projects down the line. This also went live last week. Robert Mondavi, we were also the people behind the mint of this. So when I say that we were behind it, we're not behind the marketing campaign in any way. Consider us that as the sorry about that, guys. My internet is always like weird, and I'm
No
not
worries.
in a remote situation. It's just like
no problem. I know we're right at the end of your slides there. It was really great to see you showcase the final case studies. But yes, no worries at all. We have a few minutes, and even if we do need to use another minute or so, please feel free to do so.
Let me just kind of like, that's kind of like the end of it, you're right. But here's a kind of like something that I do want to like touch base before, I end, because this is like great where I really want to conclude. Crypto flippening. Stakeholders basically have raised, maybe there's going to be a flippening between Bitcoin and Ethereum. I love Bitcoin. I'm a huge Bitcoin supporter, but I don't know what the answer is. And this is the same way as like, will there be a flippening between like Bored Ape and CryptoPunks? And I just wanted to see what people think about that. Yeah,
I know it's so up in the air, right? There's still so much to be uncovered and discovered in this space, that we're building it, creating it, figuring it all out along the way. It's a huge experiment, if you may. And Nanda actually makes a great point. She mentioned this in the chat while you were gone, and something that we could touch up on in the last couple minutes here is that it seems like in the metaverse and NFTs, the winners are the ones with the biggest investment packages, and these become therefore the brand winners. A challenge for us newcomers to break into this market is the fact that we don't have these big marketing packages, or we don't have the big credibility of a brand such as Nike or Birkin, as you alluded to, behind us. So, so what do you think would be what do you think would reduce this barrier to entry? And do you think that this barrier does exist right now?
Well, certainly there's a huge barrier to entry. Like, for example, the Adidas was dropped last week with Bored Ape, kind of like Mutant and stuff like that. That was Friday, and it was a bit of a shit show, to be honest. Like, it was obviously super successful because the brand's behind it, but with respect to how it was managed, it wasn't the greatest, to be honest. But that's the key piece. Like in this space, there's no UI, UX. It's all very like, if things fail, you don't have like a Google to call to just be like, how do I fix this? Everyone's sort of on their own in some ways, or it's still very nascent in this space. Where there's a lot of room, like I mentioned, in this entire economy, is more like, what kind of devs can you do so that you could reduce that friction and understand how, because at the end of the day, a lot of people on the marketing side understand how you could participate in this space, but it's always a question like, how can you do it? And how do you do it right without damaging your brand, right? And so, yeah, that is still a key piece, and we're all trying to do our ways on how to attack it.
Yeah.
I came from super traditional side, and so when I kind of like mentioned that, Bitcoin, Ethereum should be in your asset class, we're already seeing that shift. And in the NFT space, this is the lowest hanging fruit in a way to participate. And yeah,
it's empowering, and I think
it's a very powerful. And I think
sorry, your connection's still unstable there.
There might not be worth anything unless they do something to motivate. What I meant to say, is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we're all
yes,
right.
So weird. Is that in this space, 90% of the NFTs will not be worth anything unless people start to engage their community further based on their NFT drops.
Yes, I was just going to add this point right here. And also, Nanda, something that has become a huge consideration in the NFT space is that I think we're gravitating more towards community than hype itself, where hype was this big grandiose concept where people were able to make so much money and 10x, 100x their return. But then you started to see that there was no underlying or inherent value to some of these projects. And when you start to see the community that's being built on Discord and Twitter and real incentives to perks that could be distributed, as well as the NFT itself that are paired with the NFT, you start seeing people really attach themselves to these projects because they feel one with it. They feel the real ownership that comes with it. And Kay, I wanted to say that this was absolutely brilliant. I wanted to say what I find so interesting and intriguing about this is the fact that I think now with NFTs and blockchain, we found a way to preserve and elongate value. And what I mean by that is you referenced the concept of Adele tickets, where now imagine a world where you purchase an Adele ticket, but the ticket is an NFT itself. So it's on an open ledger that can't be replicated, that can't be distorted. So you know that you're the only owner of that ticket, and maybe in the future you get a discount on her next concert. So you preserve
100%.
value in this NFT or in this token over time. And same thing with like an Apple stock. Right now it's very stagnant, but with tokens, there's a utility function to them. You can actually traverse them across space and time to purchase goods, to share with other people, to generate further community. So Nanda, I hope this fairly answers your question, and that community plays a huge role. And we don't, I feel like we shouldn't fall too subject to the Web 2 type of thinking, which was the social, the social internet, and it had many uses to it.
And the walled gardens, right?
Yes.
And that's a key thing that you mentioned, now it's going to be DAOs. It's going to be DAOs driven by NFTs. And there will be social tokens where the governance is more like, I obviously have a problem with like Trump inciting insurrections or whatever it is, right? But at the end of the day, I don't think that Jack Dorsey should have been able to just say, I'm going to turn off your Twitter. I think it has to be a community concerted effort decision, similar to how consensus is based on blockchain, right? And so this is where the future is.
Yes, yeah, I completely agree. And I think that now that there's a redistribution of both wealth and, as you're mentioning, a redistribution of the way that we make decisions, the role of governance, and we're seeing this come to fruition now with these new token projects. And in a free market, the ones that actually do have equal decision making and ones that are well distributed are the ones that are going to win out at the end of the day, because then it's volume and the network effect starts to take its role. So, Kay, another quick one thing that I want to mention that I found really cool was you mentioned there's an acronym there that was we're all gonna make it. It was something along those lines. Yes, what that's reminiscent of is fairly similar to me, like the VC talk that you're on your ramen day, where it's like, look, we're gonna make it. We're only eating ramen right now, but that investment that we made in that pre-IPO project is now going to propel us into expanding resources. And I feel like now this we're all gonna make it is the now emerging concept with Web3.
For sure. I love it. Thank you so much for that.
Hey, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions at all that maybe I can sort of quickly answer just in case before?
Yeah, if there's anything else, please feel free to ask.
I really enjoyed it, Kay. Thank you so much. Great inspiration talk over there.
Thank you.
And Kay, can you please share with everyone where people can find you?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm on LinkedIn mostly. I'm an absolutely horrible user of Twitter, although I did try to tag Jake Paul yesterday to say that his knockout was NFT worthy. But yes, I'm on LinkedIn as Chua Ginsburg. Please feel free to find me. I love this space, guys. I've walked away completely from traditional asset management, and people are still trying to rein me back in. And I keep telling them, I'm only doing it if there's blockchain exposure or DeFi.
Yeah, it's not about the followers. It's not just about the profits. It's
not even the money anymore, to be honest. Not at all. I'll just be like, unless it's crypto related, I'm like, anytime that, back in the day, if I'm not in capital markets, I feel like I'm missing out, or I have a huge FOMO, and it's more like the knowledge base, right? And in blockchain and in crypto and in NFTs, things are moving so fast that if I do not have an arm in there, I'm willing to lose that arm, because there will be huge knowledge gaps if I'm not integrated in the space.
And it's evolving ever so quickly, right? So even just if there's a little bit there's a little bit that we can dive into just to educate ourselves. There's so many resources, so much information out there, a lot of YouTube videos, and now it's just dissecting what's most accurate and what's really going to prevail in the new stakeholder economy.
100%.
Well, thank
Does
you so
anyone have
much,
any
Kate.
questions at all on how to make NFTs, or what, like, you know, where to pledge your project?
Okay, I have one question. I don't,
Yes.
if anyone else is not asking, I'll ask away. I do abstract art. I do contemporary abstract art, and I do very large canvases. So I physically paint my paintings. And now I'm looking to get onto the NFT world and sort of digitalize them. Now, the move from physical paintings to digital is something that I'm like excited about, because it is super exciting for me. But I'm quite hesitant. Like you said, it's moving. I look one place and I'm like ready, and then something else comes along and then I'm like, okay, not now. And I don't know. I think I'm
How to
scared.
approach it? Okay.
I'm scared, and I'm like, how much investment? And it's just.
Yes, and that is the number one thing. I'd like to answer this, Anthony, if I may. Like,
Yeah, we just have another minute left.
Okay, so Nanda, how you kind of like look at this is like what the investment might be. Lowest hanging fruit is to perhaps invest $1,000, let's say, and put it on wearable. And you could do like a demon hearse experiment where like you do an NFT and then you offer to send the original painting and destroy that NFT, or vice versa.
Never destroy my paintings. My paintings are 5 feet by 4 feet. 6 feet by 6 feet. It takes me ages to make them. I would sell them if anyone wanted to buy them eventually, but I just can't bear to destroy them as much as, unless I start.
Let's take it offline, and feel free to reach out to me.
I will. Thank you.
Please, yes. I hope you guys can network and connect. And Nanda, best of luck to your work as well. I'd love to see your artwork one day, because I definitely see that there would be a space for this in this new realm that's being built. So thank you for sharing that. And again, thank you so much, Kay, for providing all this insight.
Thank you.